The rain was pouring down, and I was in excruciating abdominal pain. I dialed my husband's number, but his anxious voice came through the receiver. Monica sprained her ankle. I'll take her to the hospital first. You're a retired Special Forces soldier, can't you just take a taxi yourself? I hung up the phone with a smile, wiped the blood from my mouth, and buried him and me, and our unborn child, with my own hands. Chuck, you thought I was only good at making soup and cooking, but you forgot that my code name used to be Lisa. This time, you are the prey. I found the signed divorce agreement in Chuck's study. It was a thin sheet of paper, tucked under his book, with only the word agreement showing. I was packing his change of clothes for his business trip, and the unfamiliar cologne on his suit filled me with a numbness. As if possessed, I pulled out that piece of paper. Divorce agreement. Chuck's name was clearly visible in the signature. The date was yesterday. Yesterday was my prenatal checkup when I was 3 months pregnant, and also Monica's birthday. I held the paper, my fingertips icy cold. The little one inside seemed to sense my emotions, shifting restlessly. I took a deep breath, carefully placing the agreement back in its place, smoothing out the last wrinkle, as if it had never existed. Then, I calmly continued packing his suitcase. Shirts, ties, aftershave, and stomach medicine, which I had specially prepared for his stomach problems. I even made his favorite lotus seed and pork rib soup and put it in a thermos. When he came home that night, he smelled of alcohol and another woman's sweet scent. When he saw me, he just gave a faint took the slippers I offered, and went straight to the bathroom. Chuck, I called to him, the soup is warming up in the pot. Have some before you go to sleep, it'll warm your stomach. He paused, but didn't turn around, his voice tinged with impatience. Okay. I watched his retreating figure, the man I had loved for 5 years and married for 2, a major staff officer, a prodigy. He was handsome, wore gold-rimmed glasses, and was refined and elegant, the perfect husband in everyone's eyes. But only I know the coldness and selfishness hidden beneath that facade. After he finished showering, I ladled out the soup and placed it in front of him. He glanced at it, his brow furrowing slightly. Why the soup again? It's getting a bit cloying. My hand, holding the bowl, froze in midair. My heart felt like it was being gripped tightly by an invisible hand, the pain making it hard to breathe. This used to be his favorite soup. He said my soup tasted like home. Now, he said he was tired of it. Just like our relationship. I smiled and put the soup bowl on the table. Then I'll change it up for you tomorrow. Work must be tiring, right? It's all right, he replied casually, picking up his phone to reply to messages, a barely suppressed smile on his face. I knew it was Monica on the other end of the phone. That silly girl who had just graduated and whose eyes were full of true love. Chuck said she was his confidant, unlike me, who only knew how to stay around the stove and with the kids, boring and dull. He never imagined that my past world was more thrilling than any battlefield he had ever witnessed. I was once the best intelligence analyst in the national security system, codenamed Lisa. My mission was to uncover those vipers disguised as ordinary people, one by one, from the most inconspicuous clues. After marrying him, I settled down to cooking and cleaning, sealing away all memories of the past. I thought this was the stability I wanted. Now it seems like nothing more than a joke born of wishful thinking. Ding dong. His phone screen lit up, a message popped up. Chuck, my feet hurt so much, can you come over early tomorrow to keep me company? Chuck immediately replied, okay, I'll come over as soon as I finish tomorrow morning. After he finished typing, he looked up at me, the tenderness in his eyes instantly vanished, replaced by his usual indifference. It's late, go to sleep early. After saying that, he went straight to the guest room. Ever since I became pregnant, he had moved to the guest room, citing not wanting to disturb my rest. Watching him close the door, the smile on my lips slowly faded. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. It's me, Lisa. I need information on Chuck, a man with him named Monica, and all her social connections. I need the most detailed information possible. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, then a deep, steady male voice said, "Sansa, are you sure?" "I'm sure." My voice was completely flat. "From now on, I'm no longer Mrs. Chuck, I'm Lisa." I hung up the phone, went into the study, and turned on his computer. He arrogantly assumed I knew nothing. The computer password was still our wedding anniversary. I skillfully bypassed the few simple firewalls he had set up, and an encrypted folder appeared before my eyes. The folder was named Backup. Inside were no sweet words, no photos, only files he had encrypted. My heart sank to the bottom in an instant. These files, given his rank, should never have been on his personal computer. This is treason. My hand, gripping the mouse, trembled slightly with force. It turns out, it wasn't just a matter of no longer loving him. He betrayed his uniform, his beliefs, and the country we all shared. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. "Chuck, you've really given me a huge surprise. You thought you were playing mind games with a rich housewife who only knows how to shop, a frail pregnant woman. You're wrong. You're playing with fire with a hunter. And what I excel at is stripping away the layers of beasts in human skin, one by one, and bringing them to trial. My husband is a walking multi-million-dollar bill? No, he's priceless. Because I will personally send him on his way, using his crimes to buy myself and our unborn child a brighter future." Memories flooded back like a tidal wave, carrying a chilling cold. It was when I had just found out I was pregnant. Holding the pregnancy test results, I waited excitedly at home all night, like a child who had received candy. I imagined his surprised and delighted expression when he saw the report, and even rehearsed countless times how I would tell him the good news. He didn't come home until the early hours of the morning, reeking of alcohol. I helped him up and proudly presented the pregnancy test results to him. "Chuck, look. We're having a baby." He glanced at it briefly, tossed the form onto the cabinet in the entryway, his eyes devoid of the joy I had hoped for, only showing weariness and indifference. "I know," he said. "I'm tired, I want to rest." In that instant, all my excitement and joy were completely extinguished by his cold water. I thought he was just too tired from work. Later I found out that he was celebrating with Monica that night, helping her get her first internship. They drank all night long, and he held Monica's hand in a karaoke bar, singing one love song after another. And I, like a fool, prepared hangover soup for him at home, watching over a table of food that was gradually getting cold. In the early stages of my pregnancy, my morning sickness was severe. I vomited everything I ate, and I lost a lot of weight. One time, I was so nauseous I was practically throwing up, clinging to the toilet and unable to stand. I called him, wanting him to come home early. The call connected, but the background noise was loud, except for a girl's sweet laughter. "What is it?" he asked impatiently. I said weakly, "Chuck, I feel so bad, could you come back soon? I'm busy with a very important project, I can't leave." He immediately interrupted me. "Sansa, you weren't like this before, how come you're being so inconsiderate now? Didn't I say I'm fighting for our future?" "But alright, no more buts. Monica sprained her ankle, I have to take her to the hospital, I'm hanging up now." The phone was abruptly cut off. I listened to the busy tone on the phone, my stomach churning, but I couldn't vomit anything, only bitter bile. It turns out that my excruciating morning sickness was nothing compared to Monica twisting her ankle. My so-called insensible behavior was simply disturbing him while he was busy with other women. I struggled to my feet, looking at my pale and haggard reflection in the mirror, and suddenly felt like a stranger to myself. Where had Lisa, the ruthless and decisive intelligence operative who could analyze data for 3 days and 3 nights straight and manipulate seasoned veterans, gone? For him, I sheathed all my sharp edges, willingly becoming the docile shadow behind him. I thought it was love. Now I realize it was self-degradation. I slowly wiped away my tears and sent a message to my father, a decorated old general. "Dad, I'm pregnant." Almost instantly, my father called, his voice filled with undisguised excitement and concern. "Sansa? Really? That's wonderful. how are you feeling? Is that boy taking good care of you?" Hearing my father's familiar voice, my tears welled up again uncontrollably. I choked back tears, but tried to keep my voice calm. "Dad, I'm fine." "Chuck, he's fine too." I couldn't tell him. This was my own choice, and I had to bear the consequences myself. At least at that time, I still clung to a sliver of hope, thinking that everything would be all right after the baby was born. I was so naive. The illusion was shattered on a stormy night. That day, I received a call from the hospital saying my father was critically ill. I was over 7 months pregnant at the time, my belly as big as a ball. I frantically called Chuck over and over again, but no one answered. I had no choice but to brave the rain and hail a taxi, my pregnant belly swaggering. The rain was so heavy, there were no taxis at all. I stood by the roadside, soaked to the bone, rain and tears mingling, blurring my vision. Just when I was in despair, Chuck's car sped past me, splashing me with mud. I clearly saw Monica sitting in the passenger seat, leaning on Chuck's shoulder, crying her eyes out. And Chuck was comforting her with a look of heartache on his face. He saw me. Our eyes met through the rain. I saw shock in his eyes, then panic, and finally, he slammed on the gas and disappeared into the rainy night without looking back. At that moment, I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, and a warm stream flowed down my thigh. I looked down and saw bright red blood spreading rapidly across my white maternity dress, like a cruelly blooming flower of death. I collapsed in the cold rain. In the last second before I lost consciousness, I was thinking, "Chuck, why didn't you turn around and look at me? Even just once." Later, a kind passerby took me to the hospital. I lost the baby. It was a fully formed boy. The doctor said that if I had been brought in 10 minutes earlier, there might have been hope. I lay in the hospital for 3 days, and Chuck didn't show up even once. On the 4th day, he finally came. He was carrying a fruit basket, and his face showed signs of fatigue and guilt. "Sansa, I'm sorry, that day. Monica's brother was in a car accident, and she was devastated. I had to stay with her." He tried to explain. I lay in the hospital bed, staring at him expressionlessly. So, Monica's brother had been in a car accident, which allowed him to stand by and watch me, and his unborn child, die. What a ridiculous reason. "You know what?" I whispered, my voice hoarse like sandpaper. "Our child is gone." His body visibly stiffened, his eyes darting away, unable to meet my gaze. "I know. I'm sorry. Sansa, we're still young, we can have more children in the future. Get out." I interrupted him, uttering the word with all my might. He froze, seemingly unable to believe that I, who was always so docile, would say such a thing. I told you to get out." I sat up abruptly, grabbed the water glass from the bedside table, and smashed it against him. The glass grazed his forehead and shattered against the wall. His expression finally changed, and the guilt in his eyes was replaced by anger. "Sansa, haven't you caused enough trouble? I've already apologized, what more do you want? Yes, Monica's brother is just an ordinary person, but your father is a general, and your family is powerful and influential. I can't afford to offend them. But I was forced into this situation. They threatened me with the future of the project. What could I do?" He began to defend himself, portraying himself as a talented but unappreciated victim forced into this situation. Looking at his contorted face, I suddenly laughed. Laughed until tears streamed down my face. It turned out that in his heart, the pain of my miscarriage and the loss of our child were nothing compared to his project and his future. He even resented me, resenting that my family background had caused him to suffer. "Chuck," I wiped away my tears and said to him, word by word, "We're over." On the day I was discharged from the hospital, my father-in-law, Nate, came to pick me up in person. He was a stern old soldier, with a straight back and sharp eyes like an eagle. When he saw my pale face, he sighed, said nothing, and silently took the small bag from my hands. "Dad," I called him softly. "Sansa, I'm sorry to have troubled you." Nate's voice was deep, I'll deal with that bastard. Back in the place I called home, Chuck was there too. He saw me and immediately came to greet me with a forced, ingratiating smile. Sansa, you're back. Are you feeling better? I made you some chicken soup. I didn't look at him and went straight to the bedroom. Bang! A loud crash came from behind me. I turned around and saw my father-in-law kick over the coffee table, spilling chicken soup all over the floor. You good for nothing. You still care about Sansa? Where were you when she was in the hospital? Nate pointed at Chuck's nose, trembling with anger. Dad, shut up. Nate roared, Nate, have a reputation that has been built up for so long. How could I have given birth to such an irresponsible beast like you? You can't even protect your own wife and children. What kind of man are you? Chuck's face turned pale and then red from the scolding, but he didn't dare to talk back. Dad, forget it, I said, my voice calm and even. It was me who wanted to divorce him. Nate turned sharply to look at me, the anger in his eyes gradually subsiding, replaced by a trace of heartache and helplessness. Chuck also panicked. Sansa, don't be impulsive. I know I was wrong, I'll definitely change. Please give me another chance for the sake of our past relationship. Chuck? I looked at him and smiled. Chuck, I gave you chances. When I called you when I was suffering from morning sickness, when you drove past me, when I was lying in a pool of blood. You didn't seize them once. Now, there aren't any left. After I finished speaking, I stopped looking at him and went into the study. While no one was home, I copied all the encrypted files from his computer to an inconspicuous memory card. Now, it's time to expose these things to the world. In front of the father and son, I placed the memory card, along with the divorce agreement, in front of Nate. Dad, I found this in Chuck's study a few days ago. Chuck's face turned deathly pale. He rushed forward to snatch it, but Nate's sharp gaze froze him in place. Nate picked up the divorce papers, glanced at them, and his hand trembled. Then, he picked up the memory card. What is this? You'll see if you look at a computer, I said. Chuck, you'd better pray that what's in here doesn't land you a lifetime in jail. Chuck's legs went weak, and he almost collapsed. He looked at me, his eyes filled with fear and disbelief. He probably never imagined that the woman who only knew how to make soup would deliver such a fatal blow to him. Nate held the memory card, gave me a deep look, and then turned and went into the study. A few minutes later, a loud crash echoed from the study as a cup shattered violently, followed by Nate's suppressed roar of extreme rage. You unfilial son! You unfilial son! I left home, taking nothing with me except my identification. I completed the divorce proceedings as quickly as possible. Faced with the evidence of treason, Chuck dared not utter a word of objection. I returned to the city I had left 3 years ago and resumed being Lisa. When my former boss saw me, he patted me on the shoulder and sighed, "It's good that you're back." I had no time to dwell on the past. I threw myself into my work. Using the clues I found on Chuck's computer, I followed the trail and began a silent hunt. Chuck was merely a pawn pushed to the forefront. The real big fish was Monica's so-called overseas elite brother, Joey. He exploited Chuck's thirst for power and money, as well as his infatuation with Monica, to lure him into the trap and steal a large amount of classified intelligence from the military industry. Chuck's forced project was the key to his success, obtained by selling information. I began building a network of relationships, analyzing fund flows, and tracing the paths of information transmission. The data and code that once bored me have now become my only solace. Whenever I uncover a new clue or dig out a new contact, the thrill of cornering my prey temporarily makes me forget the excruciating pain in my heart. 3 months later, the net closing operation I led was a great success. We not only captured Joey and his entire spy network, but also intercepted a document containing core technical information about our country's latest destroyer that was about to be smuggled out of the country. At the celebration party, my former leader personally poured me a glass of wine. "Sansa, you've done a great service this time. The country will not forget your contribution." I raised my glass and drank it all in one gulp. The spicy liquid slid down my throat, as if trying to burn away all the pain. Looking out at the myriad lights of the city, I suddenly felt that the child I had lost had somehow remained with me. He was guarding this land he had never seen. And I had taken over that mission for him. After the meeting, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Nate. "Sansa, are you free? I'd like to see you." His voice sounded much older. I accepted Nate's invitation. The meeting place was a quiet tea house. When I arrived, a man in a sharp suit was standing in the doorway, seemingly waiting for someone. He saw me, paused for a moment, then gave me a gentle smile. "Hello, are you Miss Sansa?" I nodded. "I'm Saul. My uncle sent me to pick you up." Saul. I'd heard of that name before. The Pei family is a military-industrial family, and Saul is the most outstanding leader of this generation, young, capable, and decisive. He's a key partner in this operation. I didn't expect him to come in person. "Hello, Saul," I replied politely. "Just call me Saul." He opened the car door for me with a gentlemanly and natural gesture. "Thank you very much for this operation. You did a remarkable thing." His eyes were sincere, without a trace of formality. "It's my duty," I said calmly. Along the way, we talked about the aftermath of the case. I found Saul's thinking to be very clear, and his views on many details coincided with mine. It's always a pleasant experience to talk to intelligent people. When we arrived at the tea house, Nate was already waiting in a private room. He looked 10 years older in just a few months. Most of his hair had turned white, but his posture remained ramrod straight. Seeing me, he stood up, his lips moved, but ultimately only a long sigh escaped his lips. "Sansa, sit down." Saul poured us tea, then excused himself and left, leaving us alone. "Dad, you wanted to see me?" "I want to apologize to you on behalf of that unfilial son," Nate interrupted me, his voice hoarse. "It's my fault for failing to raise him properly." As he spoke, he took a file folder from his briefcase and pushed it in front of me. "This is all of Chuck's assets. He's already signed the papers, and it's all being transferred to your name. I know this can't make up for anything, but it's a small token of my appreciation from Dad." I stared at the file folder, unmoving. "Dad, I don't want it." "Sansa, listen to me." Nate's eyes reddened. "That kid, he's been sentenced. Life imprisonment." My heart, inevitably, ached. Monica, as an accomplice, was also sentenced to 10 years. Joey, the death penalty. They all received their due punishment. Nate looked at me, "But no one can repay the suffering you've endured. Dad only hopes that you can have a better life in the future." I fell silent. Better off? Could I even be better off? That life that slipped away in the rainy night is a wound in my heart that will never heal. In the end, I didn't accept the inheritance. I told Nate that I didn't want anything, I just wanted this matter to be over. When I left the tea house, Saul's car was still parked outside. He leaned against the car door, and when he saw me get out, he stubbed out his cigarette. "Finished talking?" "Yes. I'll take you home." The car was quiet, with only soft music playing. "Would you like a change of scenery?" Saul suddenly asked. I looked at him. "One of my company's information security labs is currently short of a head. I think you're a perfect fit." He looked straight ahead, but his tone was serious. "This isn't out of pity or charity. I've seen your resume, Lisa's abilities shouldn't be buried in the archives." My heart skipped a beat. Leaving the national security system was an idea I'd had for a long time. It held too many memories, every mission reminded me of Chuck, of the betrayals. I needed a fresh start. "I'll think about it." "Okay. I'll wait for you." Back at my place, I collapsed wearily onto the sofa. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Sansa, it's me." It was Chuck's voice. I don't know where he got the phone. I was about to hang up immediately. Don't hang up. Sansa, please, don't hang up, he cried urgently. I regret it. I really regret it. His voice was trembling with tears, a humility and vulnerability I had never heard before. Sansa, I only realize now that without you, I am nothing. The house is a mess, and I can't even find a clean shirt. When I have a stomachache, there's no one to prepare stomach medicine for me anymore. Monica, she can't do anything, all she can do is cry and complain to me. I just realized that I was living a paradise before. I destroyed it myself. I listened quietly, without a ripple of emotion. Only now do you realize how good I was? Too late. Where were you when I needed you? Chuck, I said coldly, whether you're doing well or not is none of my business. No. It is, he said urgently. Sansa, I know I was wrong, I deserve to die. But could you please forgive me this time for the sake of our child? The child. He mentioned the child again. The child he had abandoned with his own hands. A surge of overwhelming hatred instantly engulfed my entire body. The child? I sneered. Chuck, how dare you mention the child? He seemed speechless. You regret it? What do you regret? Do you regret not having me, your free babysitter, to take care of you comfortably? Do you regret that useless Monica who can't do anything but act cute? No. Sansa, what I regret is that I didn't cherish you. I'm such an idiot. Yes, you really are a bastard. My voice was like ice. You regret it because you lost everything I gave you. Your life is a mess, and your future is ruined. If you were still that high-ranking major staff officer today, would you still regret it? There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. I guessed right. His regret was never because of love, but because of the trade-offs. He simply realized that losing me was a losing proposition for him. Sansa, please give me another chance? I'll make it up to you, I'll give you everything I have. He was still making a last-ditch effort. No need, I said. Everything you have is in prison now. Enjoy it. I hung up the phone and blocked the number. I leaned back on the sofa, gasping for breath, but found I couldn't even shed a tear. My heart was dead, it wouldn't hurt anymore. The next day, I called Saul back. I accept your invitation. I joined Saul's company as the head of the Information Security Lab. I poured all my energy into my work, leading the team to overcome one technical challenge after another, and quickly established a foothold in the industry. Saul gave me the greatest support and trust. He would work overtime with me until late at night, remember that I had a sensitive stomach and would prepare warm milk for me, and when I frowned over a difficult problem, he would quietly hand me relevant materials. He never asked about my past, but his actions gradually warmed my frozen heart. A year later, the company held its anniversary celebration. As the head of a core department, I attended in full regalia. Just as the celebration was halfway through, someone no one expected appeared at the entrance. It was Chuck. He was wearing faded old clothes, his hair was messy, his beard was unkempt, and he was so thin he was almost unrecognizable, with bloodshot eyes. He was nothing like the spirited man he once was, he looked like a destitute vagrant. I don't know how he got out of prison, or how he found this place. He walked through the crowd straight towards me. All eyes were on us. He suddenly knelt down in front of me. Sansa. He grabbed my skirt, looked up, tears streaming down his face. I was wrong. Please forgive me. The whole room erupted in uproar. Saul immediately stepped in front of me, looking at him coldly. Sir, please let go. No. I won't let go. Chuck was acting like a madman. Sansa is my wife. We just had a fight. Sansa, please come home with me? I can't live without you. In front of everyone, he put on a show of a devoted husband begging his wife for forgiveness. If people didn't know what he had done, perhaps they would have been moved by him. I pushed Saul aside and looked down at the man kneeling on the ground. Chuck, we're divorced. I don't agree. That agreement doesn't count. I was forced into it, he shouted. Is that so? I laughed, a laugh utterly sarcastic. So you were forced into treason too? Those words instantly turned Chuck's face ashen. You're talking nonsense. Chuck's eyes began to glaze over. I'm talking nonsense? I leaned down, close to his ear, and said in a voice only the two of us could hear, Joey, the latest type of destroyer, are those words familiar to you? His body trembled violently, like a leaf. How did you know? Not only did I know, I personally put them in there. I straightened up, looked at his terrified face, and said, word by word, Chuck, do you think I'm just a clueless housewife? He collapsed to the ground, his face ashen. Dad, does Dad know? He asked, trembling. What do you think? I countered. He completely broke down, clutching his head and letting out a wild, animalistic howl. His most respected father had personally sent him to prison. His most despised wife was the mastermind behind the destruction of everything he had. There could be no crueler revenge in the world. Security guards quickly arrived and dragged him away. He clung to the ground, screaming at me, Sansa. Why are you doing this to me? How could you be so cruel? We were husband and wife. We even have a child. It was a child again. I walked up to him, knelt down, and calmly looked into his eyes. Chuck, do you know why I collapsed in the rain that night? Chuck froze, staring blankly at me. That day, I received a call from the hospital saying my dad was critically ill. I called you, but you didn't answer. I had to rush out and hail a taxi myself. My voice was soft, but it struck his heart like a heavy hammer. I saw your car on the side of the road. You drove past me, splashing me with mud. You saw me, didn't you? His lips began to tremble, and he couldn't speak. Monica was in your car, and she was crying on your shoulder. You looked at her with heartache, and then you stepped on the gas and drove off without looking back. I was standing there, watching your taillights disappear into the rain. Then I felt a sharp pain in my stomach, and blood started flowing. I collapsed on the ground, less than 2 kilometers from the hospital. The doctor said that if we had been brought there 10 minutes earlier, our baby would have been saved. I looked at his face, which had instantly lost all color, and continued, it was a boy, over 7 months old, already fully formed. You didn't even have a chance to see him. Later, you came to the hospital and told me that Monica's brother had been in a car accident and you had to stay with her. Chuck, do you know? Monica's brother just got into a fight that day and scraped his skin a little. Your white moonlight sprained his ankle and scraped his skin, but that's more important than me, more important than the life of our unborn child. Now, you kneel here and beg me to forgive you. Tell me, why should I forgive you? My voice remained calm and undisturbed, yet every word pierced the heart. Chuck was completely stunned. It was as if he were hearing this story for the first time. His face was filled with disbelief and immense pain. His mouth opened, as if to say something, but no sound came out. Large tears rolled down his empty eye sockets. It turns out he didn't even know the real reason for my miscarriage. He always thought it was just an accident. He thought he had only made a mistake that all men make. He never knew that with one choice, he had killed his own child. No. I don't know. I really don't know, he murmured incoherently, like a fool. Security guards dragged him out, his desperate cries fading into the distance. The hall fell into a deathly silence. Saul took off his suit jacket, draped it over my shoulders, and gently put his arm around me. It's all over now. I leaned against him, my nerves, which had been tense for so long, finally relaxing completely in this moment. Yes, it's all over now. Chuck was reincarcerated for disorderly conduct while on parole. It said he went completely insane in prison. He spends all day holding his head, repeating the same phrase, I killed my child. Nate came to see me once. He didn't mention Chuck again, but simply placed a rattle in my hand. This is what I prepared for him, originally intending to wait until the baby was born. The old man's tears fell onto the old wooden horse. I accepted it. I locked it in a box along with the black and white ultrasound image. This was my final farewell to the past. After Monica was released from prison, she came to see me. 10 years in jail had worn away all her innocence and pride. She looked older than me. She didn't beg me, nor did she scold me, she just asked me, "Have you ever regretted falling in love with him?" I thought for a long time, then shook my head. No regrets. If I had never loved, how would I understand how heart-wrenching betrayal is? If I had never felt pain, how would I know how exhilarating it is to stand up on my own? Saul and I are together. The day he proposed to me, there were no flowers, no diamond ring. He simply took me to the information security lab we had worked on together, pointed to the lines of code scrolling rapidly on the screen, and said, "Sansa, in the past, you protected the nation's intelligence. In the future, I want to protect you." "I don't need your protection," I said with a smile, "but I am willing to fight alongside you." We had a simple wedding, inviting only our closest family and friends. Nate came too. He took my hand and solemnly placed it in Saul's. "I'm entrusting my daughter to you." Saul held my hand tightly and said to him, "Dad, don't worry." Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows of the church, bathing us in warmth and brightness. I looked at the man beside me, the light in his eyes shone even brighter than the sunlight. I knew then that this time, I hadn't made the wrong choice. The former Lisa buried her love and her prey. The current Sansa has found her armor and her home. In this battlefield of life, I lost one battle, but ultimately, I won the entire war.